Hello and welcome to another episode of Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
And so our podcast, we are journaling my progress, sometimes regress through this wellness. And, when we talk about wellness, we talk about a lot of things. It's diet, not being on a diet, but what we eat, our exercise, our mindset, sleeping. I mean, it's everything, water intake, all of these things combined. And so, even though we are chronicling my journey, Terry is my trusty sidekick and helper.
And a little bit about me too.
Yeah. We also do have professionals that come on from time to time to help us with these things, to show us, give us some good feedback, heads up, give us some new things to think about. And today is no different. Terry, I'll let you introduce.
We have been looking forward to this one with Halle, Eavelyn. She's a transformational coach, a speaker, and a writer who helps people break out of their old patterns so they can live their best lives. And Halle, I'm going to let you go more into detail. I'd rather hear you discuss your background and all of that. And welcome so much to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have just so enjoyed the little bit that I've gotten to know you both. And I think that your journey into your own, deeper versions of yourselves and like bigger versions of yourselves, not physically, but emotionally and mentally is so admirable. I think there's a lot of people who are waking up now to the idea of, it's time to look for something more than just, let me get married, get a great job, have kids, grow old and die. Not that there's anything wrong with that. However, it can be bigger, and you guys are on that arc. And I really love that. I just wanted to mention that right up front.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I'm an old dog trying to learn some new tricks. It's kind of a fun journey. Some things work, some things stick, but we're finding a lot of great things.
Yeah. And even though, some people start out trying to work on the physical aspect, and man, it goes so much deeper than that. It's just all this inner work. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to know that about myself. I don't want to know everything you find out. It's nuts. But let's
well, I was going to say, it's really what you're saying is correct, but it's like while you're, what I call like in the swim, right? So when you're in that primordial soup of, I don't want to look at these ugly places in myself. And I'm not talking about like, I don't like my thighs. Right. I'm talking about like the ugly places, like in our internal experience. You can feel like crap as you're going through it. I was on with a client earlier today, and she was saying to me, like, I know it's growth, but it really is just annoying my energy. And I totally get that. It's like, it's no fun when you're in the swim. However, when you get to the other side of it, I'll tell at least one personal story that I can think of that we'll talk about that specifically. But when you're on the other side of it, it's like, oh, thank goodness I did that. Oh, I'm so grateful that I went through that. And oh, the me that I am now is so much better and so much braver and so much more capable of handling all that comes my way on a daily basis. And then that makes a big difference too.
And I think it's good a reminder about that, about handling things and changing. It doesn't happen overnight as much as we wish that it would. That, it's a progress. And I think you said, like, look into the future, that if I keep this mindful practice, it gets better every day that I practice it, it just gets better.
And being present. Mm-hmm. Present is so important. Just being able to feel it and be there in the moment.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second, Terry, because in my experience, that's one of the hardest things I ever see with clients is their ability to be present. So first of all, did you know that goldfishes have attention spans longer than we do? A goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds, and ours over the last 20 years or whatever, no surprise, has shortened from 12 seconds to 8.
Oh, wow.
And the internet attention span, like how long you can focus on something on the internet without distraction, is 3.8 seconds. So we're like, what Roy said earlier, like we want to just take that magic pill and like, oh, I'm thin now, lovely, and we're done. Yeah. And seen. And it does not work like that. It does not work like that. We say that it does. We hope that it does. We want it to. but it doesn't work like that. And the reason is that it isn't a destination in the first place. It's a journey. And the reason you stay present in every moment is that you're not trying to get anywhere. You just are. And are is the destination. And that's really weird for people, right?
It's tough because we are so focused on the finish line. And I think and this applies to our health, wellness, business, just life in general, is that we could be so focused on the finish line that we miss all the great stuff in between. And then we get to the finish line and we feel very unsatisfied, I think, because we missed all the stuff in between, and it's kind of a hollow victory a lot of times.
Okay, so my story about that is a little sad. I was sitting in a room filled with my entire family, my extended family, and my aunt and uncle, who are no longer with us, were standing on the dais, being lauded for their 50th anniversary. And my Aunt Shirley said, I look around this room and I think, where did 50 years go? I have these moments. I mean, they had plenty of money. They crossed the Atlantic on the QE2 multiple times. They lived in this stunning place in Corona del Mar, like overlooking, which is some of the most expensive real estate in the United States, overlooking the ocean. They raised 3 children. They had, like, everyone that was in the room with me, my whole family was like mostly because of them. And my aunt was now the matriarch of the family. And yet she's saying, I can only remember a few of those moments. And in fact, a few years later, she ended up, maybe 10 years later, she developed dementia. And by the time she died, she could only speak in what we called word salad, which was complete gibberish that had like cadences that sounded familiar. And I remember at that age, just really looking at her and listening to her, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I will not live my life like that. I do not want to look back over 50 years. So I'm going to give your listeners a good tool. So we didn't even talk about all of this, but I'm a transformational coach, right? My job is to help people transform their lives, and not just transform their lives, but when you stop worrying about food, clothing, and shelter, you can start thinking about art. It's what I call the Renaissance theory. And so when you're busy saying, how do I feed my family? Or will there be enough this? You can't focus on creating masterpieces. I believe that that's why the Renaissance is so beautiful, because the work has come down to us as so beautiful and enduring and magnificent, is that the artists didn't have to worry about where their money was coming from. It was fully funded by people who had more money than they knew what to do with. Okay, so how does that translate into our lives? When you get the stuff out of the way, that is the worry, the doubt, the fear, the uncertainty, the victimization of yourself, the stories that you tell of your, the failures that you've had. And when you stop all of that and you move into the present moment, all of that goes away. Because in this present moment, right now, all our needs are met, right? Yeah. And now, and it's our job moment to moment to be in that present. So a good tool for this, when you're just like crazy busy and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't, like nothing's going right. What can I do? Pause and just set the intention of being centered. And what is being centered? It's grounding yourself with your feet firmly on the floor. It's aligning your spine in a long column with your neck and your head right over the top of your spine. It's moving your posture, even if you're still sitting, so that your feet are firmly on the floor and so that you're sitting erect. And then you take 3 deep breaths, and it will help if you breathe into your belly. A lot of people breathe into their chests, and that's very shallow breathing. And I call this the breath of life, because when you move it down into your belly, when your belly expands on the inhale and then releases on the exhale, it changes, it floods your body with oxygen. And I believe that it literally can add years to your life to do this. So if you take those 3 deep belly breaths and set the intention that you are centered and call your energy back from anywhere that it was before this now moment, you can spool it up using, like, thinking of it as like you're, rolling it up like a ball of yarn, or my girlfriend likes to say she wants to slurp it up like a strand of spaghetti. It doesn't matter what you do. It's just a momentary thing where you're not thinking about the meeting you had that morning or the fact that you have to pick your kid up in an hour or whatever. You're just bringing everything back to center. And when you do that, it took longer to describe it than it would to take to do it. Believe me, it's really, it takes exactly as long as those 3 deep breaths. And then you'll find you are now present. And another way of getting present that's really easy is go from the outside to the inside. So you want to look like at the coffee cup that's in front of you, or the desk that's in front of you, or the cell phone that's sitting there. And you want to just notice without any judgment all of the things around you. And then begin to turn your attention inside. Check in with your body. How does your stomach feel? How is your breathing? Do any parts feel out of alignment? Can you get them back into alignment? And then you'll be able to turn further within if you would like. But going from that outside in is another way to help be present. And a third way is to literally stop and smell the flowers. Focus on one thing, a totally mundane moment, like how does that rose smell? Or what does that book cover look like? Or whatever it is that is like right there in your face in that moment, that can help you to stay present. And 4 or 5 or 6 of those moments every day, you will not be like my aunt standing there going, where did the last 50 years go? You'll feel all 50 of them one moment at a time.
Oh, that's great. Because I mean, I already feel that. I already feel like, where did all of that go? We're just kind of I'm just getting up there. Roy always says, yeah, she's not aging. I'm the one that's aging. But no, I already feel that, we've got older parents that we're trying to, in that caretaking mode, not living with them, but trying to get all the logistics down and all the family dynamics and everybody's dealing with that in a different way, and we, yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
No, it's okay. My mother-in-law moved in in February. She's Cuban, and it's a really weird, it's like these two. I mean, I'm Lucy, right? In I Love Lucy, and my Cuban family is like, the Ricky Ricardos, the Desi Arnazes, and I'm just like, I mean, and I live in Miami now, and it's like I feel like this, fish out of water. But when my mother-in-law moved in, there's other responsibilities that come in. We're never going to be able to take a fast walk ever again. Well, until she passes, and by that time I'll probably be slow. So it's like we have to spend an extra, like if we tell her to be ready at noon, we really have to tell her to be ready at 1:45, because she will have rushed around to get ready earlier in the day, but now she's sitting and taking her time. And if you say to her, it's time to go, then there's the 15 minutes of the things that she forgot to do and now needs to take care of. So it's like you have to kind of adjust for all of that stuff. And it can feel, I know I have a lot of clients who are caretakers for elderly people, and it can feel like such a slog and such a stressor. And my mother-in-law, by the way, is the easiest human being in the world to have living with us. She's an amazing housemate, but there are differences, there are nuances. You're not, you can't walk around naked anymore. There's just situations that are a little bit different. And for people who are taking care of elderly parents, or also, if they're taking care of disabled children, it's the same thing. It's like an ongoing thing where you're always the caregiver, and who is going to take care of you? And a lot of people gain a lot of weight during that time because they're eating emotionally, because it's the only solace that they have under those circumstances.
Yeah. The other thing I think, kind of back a little bit in the conversation, that we spend so much of our right this moment worrying about something in the future, something in the past. And, I will say that the science is pretty clear on the fact that our brains, as complicated and as awesome as they are, we can, really deal with one thought at a time. And, it's like
Yeah.
when you're out to eat, if you're with somebody, you can either have a conversation and be focused with them, or you can be on your phone, but you can't be on your phone and be paying attention to them, or you get fragmented pieces. And so I think that's the other thing, is that, I feel like that's what makes our time go, is that we're so future focused on, I got that report due next week. This is coming up. And another trick that I've kind of picked up over the years, luckily I learned this a long time ago, but is just jot stuff down, because I don't have to be, try to retain it. And in the business world, there's a lot of people that, don't write list. And I think we have to do what helps us. But I always just don't feel like I have the worry and the stress. If I just get it down on paper, I can always go back and look at it, instead of, instead of constantly playing it through your head. I got this at 3. I got that at 5. I got this tomorrow. Write it down. You don't have to think about it again. Just look at your paper.
Yeah, so I have 3 different sets of things. I have my calendar, which will keep my meetings and stuff.
Right.
But I also have if you saw my desk right now, you would laugh. I have this crazy set of Post-it notes, just like out in the middle, like covering my desk. And those Post-it notes keep top of mind stuff that I need to do like now. And every couple days, I'm like sorting through the Post-it notes, and I'll throw away the ones that are done. And then I have sets of notes on my phone, and I love keeping notes on my phone because I can talk into it. And that is, and all of these things, the value of them is what brings you peace of mind.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say that the Post-it notes, which kind of make my desk look messy, it's my desk and my office, so I can do whatever I want. But let's just say that I had been raised to keep a really clean desk, and to keep, and that I believed that an unclean desk was the sign of an unclean mind, right? That was my story that I told myself.
Right.
So then the very system that I've got that would work, I would be telling myself that I would be feeling guilty every single time, or wrong, making myself wrong every single time by my very system. So the question isn't what system do you have, it's how do you feel? A lot of people are like, they're like, a lot of people are into procrastination, right? They're like, they'll put everything off. And I accomplish a crazy amount. I really do. Like, every 2 weeks I'm with my accountability partner, and the list that we send back and forth of everything we've done the previous 2 weeks looks like what wouldn't take a normal person 2 months. How does that happen? It happens because I love it and I love doing it. But that acknowledgement, that very acknowledgement, by having an accountability partner, by choosing to list out all the things that I've done over the last 2 weeks, that is a reward in itself. And then I have this great system that I love. I call it the cycle of success. So I'm going to share it with all your peeps right now, because this is good for all of this stuff, and it will actually kill procrastination. The system is, you take your big old to-do list, because what you're talking about, Roy, is like, it reminds me of that scene in Harry Potter where like Dumbledore takes the wand and he touches it to his forehead, and the thoughts come out and go into the pensieve. So that's what we're doing. We're taking the thoughts out. We're like sticking them in the iPhone, right? That's our magical technology. So when you do that, you end up with this list that's like this, and then that makes you feel like crap. Everybody I know who wants to accomplish a lot has a never-ending to-do list. So what do you do to fix that? You create what I call the empowered to-do list. And the empowered to-do list is exactly 3 items long. And the rules are, you have to be able to accomplish all of the items in a single day. So the tasks have to be broken down into small enough increments that they are, like your list your to-do list might say, redo my website, but your empowered to-do list would say, contact the graphic designer to have the logo redone, for example, because that's a phone call. You could do that in one day. And then the second rule is that it can only have 3 things on it at a time. And the third rule is that at least 2 of them have to do what I call move the business needle, which means return all my phone calls, check all my emails, and write up an idea that I had, none of those are moving your business forward in that moment, right? So it's not the mundane stuff. It's just like the stuff that you intend to do, because we tend to have way too much going on at the same time. And then we feel like we never get anything accomplished. So you check your 3 items off on the empowered to-do list, which you can do in one day because they're set up that the tasks are small enough. How do we eat the elephant? 1 bite at a time. So we have elephant bites on our empowered to-do list. And then at the bottom of the empowered to-do list is one last item, reward. And now you can take whatever it is you were doing to procrastinate, check Facebook for a half an hour, binge watch 2 episodes of the show that I'm like madly in love with, go have a walk in the park, whatever it was that you were procrastinating with. I had one guy play Minesweeper for an hour. That was what he was doing to procrastinate. When he moved it to his empowered to-do list as his reward, he would like come in, get all 3 things done immediately, and then just play Minesweeper for an hour. And then you can rinse and repeat with the next 3 items, or rock on with your day knowing that you've accomplished things, right?
I remember hearing you talk about that on one of your podcast episodes. And I was like, I play this game 2 dots. It's mindless. Yeah, Roy laughs at me, but it helped. I don't know why. I mean, it helps me kind of get my thoughts aligned, sort of, or in
Terry, it's not that don't apologize for any of this. It does, because it's giving your brain the parts of your brain that you're using to get stuff done. It's giving that part a break. It's like you've plugged your batteries into the wall by playing 2 dot or listening to episodes of Your Goddess Awakened, my podcast.
Listen,
I'm so happy that you do that. Thank you.
I'm a couple behind. I haven't, but we. Yeah. I love them. They're very important.
Yeah.
It's the meme, we're taking a digital break where the lady is holding up the book that she's reading with the with the phone inside of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do that too. Like, I'm gonna read.
Well, the thing about the empowered to-do list that I love is it gives you permission to accomplish certain things, and then it pats you on the head and rewards you when you do it. The problem with the to-do list is we will just go from thing to thing to thing to thing, and we're never getting, we never feel like we're accomplishing anything because we never pause to recognize that we have accomplished so much. Right. So I mentioned my accountability partner earlier. When I write that list, oh my gosh, I have to dig deep because it's like 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, what did I do? And I look and I did that and that and that and that and now I feel fantastic. And so even maybe just having an accountability partner can help make a big difference for you as well. The important thing though to remember, and this comes back to the purpose of your podcast, your feeding fatty, I think that is a hysterical title, your feeding fatty concept. Our bodies are not fat. Our bodies are a result of our fat brains, and our brains are fat because we lie to them all the time and tell ourselves how much we suck, how wrong we are, and what we're not doing right. So when you feel into the energy of, does the system work? It's not, does the system work? It's how do I feel about the system? How do I feel? Does this make me feel good? People, like, I always tell people, why do I have bumper sticker coaching? Because it's small enough to fit on a bumper sticker and you'll remember it in an emergency. And why is that important? Because if I tell you a 12-step brilliant process to fix something and you can't remember the first 3 steps, now you feel bad, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that bumper sticker coaching. I do.
Well,
here's sorry, Roy, hang on. Here's a good reframe for you, Terry, with you just said, look, you're like, oh, I'm listening to Your Goddess Awakened for pleasure. I'm a little behind. Now you're feeling bad because you're behind.
I know.
Right? So that's not good either. So okay, so here's your reframe for feeling behind. Are you ready?
Good. I'm writing it down.
Your reframe for feeling behind is to keep this mantra like close to your heart. I am exactly where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
Because wherever you are, that is exactly where you need to be right now. And we will make up all this stuff, right? If I had come out with that podcast a month later, you'd be ahead, but I didn't. So now you feel like you're behind, right? Like, but it's all arbitrary.
I know. And I was kind of upset because I just like blew through them right away. You know, when we first talked a couple of months ago, I was like, oh my gosh. And they're just the right amount of time too. Because, you know, sometimes they can get long, but 15 to 30 minutes ish. And with the bumper sticker coaching, and oh my gosh, I just blew through them. I was like, where's the rest?
They're coming, I promise. Well, the long episodes are the hour-long episodes are if I have a guest or if I do a trauma clearing for somebody live on the show, I allocate an hour because you can't just clear trauma in 30 seconds. However, in an hour, we can accomplish a real ton. So I love the feedback. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we just listened this morning. I think it was the one on women empowerment and stuck in bad situations.
Oh, the sisterhood. Yes, that is like the latest episode, Terry. You're called.
I know.
Not even behind.
I know. I know.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. The one thing I've always heard all my life is I'm not going to be a spoiler alert, give it away, but I'll let people listen. But the one part you talked about a particular person that was married to another particular person. And, the old saying rings true that whenever you marry for money, you will earn it every day.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that she has to.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about energy for a minute, because for people that don't know, we talked to you a long time ago. We tried to do a taping for a business episode that I ended up vanishing like I Dream of Jeannie into a smoke puff. And but the other thing that we've kind of done in between here is we went and did. Terry, you say what it was.
Oh no, I want you to say it because it sounds so good when you say it.
Reiki.
Oh,
Reiki.
You did it.
Is
Reiki. Calls it Reiki.
Reiki. Yes, Reiki.
Yeah, whatever that thing is. We went and did that. And it was amazing because I'm a cowboy kind of guy. Grew up here and been around here my whole life. And so
I love him, Terry. He really is so awesome.
So me going to one of these things, it was not out of my comfort zone. I was ready to try, but it's just not in my norm, that and the meditation and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just I was mystified about the one thing she did was hold her hand over my head, and I felt like my head was on fire. I mean, the heat that she drew out of me, or we had together, or whatever. I don't know how that is. But then the other thing too is like I've got kind of a bad shoulder. Well, when she started migrating, she went to the troubled spots on my body first. And just the whole thing was very interesting. I'm going to go back. I think Terry's been back for her second round, but so what's your take on I know people think about like our karma kind of energy, like, if I'm putting negative stuff out and saying negative things about people, all that comes back to us. But, there's also this energy and balance of just moving in life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this topic so much. And I love that you are getting into this for yourself, because, this is what I was saying there's so much more to life than just what we see like in front of us on a daily. And it's such an opportunity to, when we go down the rabbit hole of any kind of energy work, it's often just so powerful. And I'm going to back up a second and talk a little bit about why I feel that I have the right to discuss this, because I think it's going to be important. So I was an atheist until I was in my mid 30s, and not only an atheist, but an atheist who had panic attacks about death. because I just thought there wasn't anything after my body ceased to exist. And so that was like the most awful thing I could think of. And then when I went to Egypt for the very first time, I had a spiritual awakening. And that spiritual awakening took me from being an atheist into being this deeply spiritual, God is everything, everywhere, God is like breathing person in a single breath. And it was like so huge and powerful and amazing, singularly the most incredible moment of my life so far, because I'm definitely open for more. And it really, that from that moment to this, I've basically become a different person. And my work now is all about energy. And I mean, I have a background in theater and multimedia and real estate and travel, and now I coach, and I use every single bit of it. What I use the most that I didn't understand that I had was my intuition. And I've come to the understanding that what we believe are our intuitive gifts, which we either have or don't have, is not true. Everyone has intuitive gifts. Everyone is gifted in the same manner. However, to the extent that you were raised to shut that down, which a lot of parents shut the kids down, right? And your imaginary friend was probably, you know, an intuitive thing and may or may not actually have been in the room with you. And yet your parents will tell you like, that's not okay, or, you know, shut that away, or you had a tendency to, you know, see dead people or whatever. I've heard all of the things from people who have been told, like, you know, it's like you come into the world and it's almost like you're wearing your skin on the inside and your nerve endings on the outside. And depending on who you are and how you have been raised, you can be told that that's a very bad, not okay thing. And the world will shut you down just in general because your school, your church, your government, whatever, everybody wants you to walk the path that they have outlined, good or bad. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying people don't like it when you color outside of the lines. It's confusing and it can be very upsetting for people, especially people who are like more, you know, structure oriented. So all of that to say that we all are made completely of energy, like completely, and everything is energy. This, you know, this podcast is being broadcast from 3 different physical homes. Everybody's got a different microphone. We all have computers. Doesn't matter. All of that is also energy. And when you get into the physical atoms of what looks like a solid structure, like a table, it's mostly made up of empty space, and the atoms in that empty space are the same atoms that make us up as well. And there is a difference because, you know, the table does not have a creative life force that is sentient, but it does have the energy of the creative life force. So everything is energy. Now, I was wondering when you said Reiki, whether I was going to talk about this, and I've decided to. So I've never said this out loud before because it's not something that I like get paid to do, but I was told a couple of years ago that I am a Reiki master. I've never studied Reiki. However, when I'm in a hospital, my hands automatically just come up and go and do Reiki on people who are sick, and they get better. I've seen it happen often enough that I'm like, okay, this is a thing. I am not making it up. And I believe that that gift expanded because when I was in Egypt having my spiritual awakening, I started blessing my food. So I would hold my hands up and I would attempt to activate the energy in my hands with my thoughts so that I could connect to my food. And if you ever hear me pray over a dinner table, and I do pray over all my dinner tables, what I say is, I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful for the food made with loving hands and the food going from farm to table. And as I do that, I am energetically activating my hands, connecting with that food, because that food is full of atoms and molecules that make me up. And when I claim that that is all turning into love and light in my body, it really will help me shift. what we focus on expands. So when we spend all that time going a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, what do you think that's doing to our bodies? Where is that chocolate cake going exactly? Whereas when you claim that it is turning into love and light in your body, when you are blessing it, when you are connecting with it, and when you are deliberately present moment, Terry, enjoying it, it shifts how it processes in your body. Now, I don't understand all of it, but I understand that it is true. And my programming growing up was always, don't eat that, you're going to get fat, which was very confusing because Jewish families do this thing where on the one hand, it's don't eat that, you're going to get fat. And on the other hand, it's did you finish your dinner? You're going to get sick if you don't eat all your food. So both of these things are going at this. Did you know there were starving children in China? So all these things are going at the same time. And so you got to get really confused. And if you have strong personalities in your life, like I did, you get really confused. So I've spent my whole life going, well, any food that I put in my mouth other than lettuce will make me fat. And I was, guess what? I was fat my whole life. When I was 6, I was a size 6. When I was 8, I was a size 8. When I was 12, I was a size 12. I thought that was how it went. I was sure. By the time I was 16, I was about a 14, 16, and I stayed there until I was in my mid 40s when I finally came into a new understanding, which by the way was for me doing 12-step for food. And what I came to understand is that control is the master addiction. And when I learned that, it didn't matter what else I did, as long as I gave the control over to my higher power. And once I started doing that, everything began to shift in my life in a really, really good way. And Roy, in my opinion, everything that I said, everything, and everything we talked about throughout this entire conversation is all about energy, because it's what are you putting out in the world and what do you expect to get back? Roy, do you think that Reiki would have worked as well on you if you had said, this doesn't work, this is crap, as she put her hand on you?
No, there's no way. You have to have an open mind and be receptive. And it's funny because I just wrote down the 3 words that as we started doing that, I'd had one of the worst weeks that I've had in the last couple of years. Like I had a 1-2 punch on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and I went Thursday night and I almost didn't go because, I was just out of sorts, but I went. And so as she started doing her thing, I kept my eyes closed and was just kind of meditating. And it was like I was between sleep and consciousness, but
that's called the theta state.
Yep.
Yeah, it was also too, my chest just swelled up. I could just feel everything welling up in me. And then the 3 words that came to mind were patience, peace, and strength. It was the most bizarre, happy, because those are the words I needed to hear at that time. But I just felt, it was kind of like an out of body experience almost. That anyway, that and the other thing that I've started doing when I meditate is, people kind of snicker about the old, the picture of the person sitting there with their hands like that. But what I have become to find is that's my antenna, or that's me,
I love it.
bringing it all to me. And I just feel like I'm much more receptive if I can put my hands in that pose, that it's like I'm welcoming in, whatever God has given me at that time.
And the mudras, which are the different positions of the hands, each one actually has, and I couldn't tell you what, but each one has a different meaning. So when you see the pictures of the Buddha and the Buddha is doing this is a giving and receiving pose of the Buddhas. So that's this particular mudra, and it is a mudra. But the normal mudras for meditation, you bring your thumb and forefinger together in a circle. Why are you doing that? You are creating a closed circuit. So it is a closed energy circuit that is allowing like a circular experience of energy where it goes out and it goes in. And so you're having that flow. And then there are different mudras, like some like this one, or like 2 fingers up and then the rest of the fingers closed. Those are all different mudras that you can use. And another thing that you can do to create that closed circuit, but also to allow the flow, is to clasp your hands as well and turn them over so that your palms are facing up, and sit with your hands in your lap like that. That's another way to create that antenna thing. It's not coming through your fingers, it's actually coming through your crown chakra. Right. And it's the flow of that energy is coming through. I mean, it's too literal to say like, well, it's coming from the heavens in through the top of your head and going throughout your entire body. And yet that's actually a really comforting way of thinking about it. And let me ask you about what you said about welling up. So you were talking about your heart welling up. Did it feel like a bunch of emotions welling up, or did it feel like your heart was very full? Which was it?
I think it was very full. It wasn't welling up emotionally, but it was just like right prior to these words coming to me, it was just like all the energy. I don't know if it was that. It's like everything just kind of rushed up in here, and I just felt, puffed up, empowered.
Okay.
You felt like
that's good.
Superman or something.
Kind of like how you think
That's
Superman.
Great. I love it. I love it. Okay, so Joe Dispenza, who is a chiropractor turned brain scientist who loves all this stuff, Joe Dispenza talks about this idea of what he calls heart coherence. And heart coherence is, now he works with a company called Heart Math, and they do biofeedback. So they've actually done lots and lots of tests, because the tests they've done are too crazy. Like if you weren't hooked up to machines that were empirically proving what he's saying, you would be like, yeah, that's a bunch of crap. But they hook people up to the computers, and the computers record the information, and that's how they know. So for example, they did DNA tests. And this is at the beginning of the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, if anybody's interested. Okay. Yeah, well, and you haven't read it yet. All right. Well, okay. Now, so this is, you're gonna be like, run, don't walk to this book at the end, after you hear this story. So the experiment that they did was they took DNA strands. Okay. Now DNA strands are a double helix, right? There's 2 that you can see. It's actually 12, but that's a whole other conversation. So it's a double helix, the 2 intertwined strands. And they took these 2 intertwined strands and they gave them in test tubes to people. And they asked people to set an intention to unwind the strands of DNA. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, it's in your DNA. What does that mean? It's completely unchangeable forever, because you can't change your DNA. That's like what, right? Okay. So you shouldn't be able to do anything to change your DNA. Are we in agreement about that? Yeah. Okay. So he did 3 different groups. The first group simply set the intention. The second group went into heart coherence, which is this feeling of flooding your heart with love until it feels so full that it is about to burst. Sound familiar, Roy?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third group first experienced heart coherence and then set the intention of unwinding the strands of DNA. The first group, nothing. The second group, nothing. Ask me the percentage that the strands of DNA were unwound in the third group that had both heart coherence and following that intention. What do you think the percentage of DNA that was unwound?
100%.
Yeah, that would be like really cray. No, it wasn't that high, but it was 25%, way bigger than a placebo or no, but anything. 1%, you'd be like, that didn't happen.
Right.
10%, you'd be like, no way. But 25% is obviously not a coincidence, right? It's not a placebo kind of an effect. So why did the DNA unwind by that 25%? It was the combination of heart coherence and intention. So he says you put your, like, to create a result that you desire, to manifest something, you would fill your heart with love, feel all the puppy, the yummy puppies in the world, all those kitten videos that you've ever seen, plus the person you were madly in love with before they broke your heart, all those yummy feelings. And then you set your intention for the thing that you want to manifest. So Roy, what you said really reminded me of that. because it is a precursor. When you feel like that, when you feel like your heart is so full, it is a precursor to setting your intention. Now, Roy, I can't see your stomach. I can only see your from the neck up, but you look like you're not a what'd you say?
I said that's by design.
Oh.
The camera.
Well, you look like you don't need to lose any weight, but let's say you still need to lose some weight. Okay. Right.
Yeah, we can go with
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing to do is to set the intention of releasing, not losing, right? Releasing it. And the next thing to do is to combine your intention to release. Why don't we want to lose weight? Because we'll have to find it again. We want to find the things we lose. You don't want that, right?
Yeah.
So we release the weight, and we do it. If you choose to, you could do it by creating that heart coherence, that feeling of everything is in joy, in alignment, in joy, and my heart is so full it could burst. And then seeing yourself, visualizing yourself at your ideal weight. What happens though instead, and this, the Harv Eker, T. Harv Eker says, where intention goes, energy flows and results show. That's his little expression, right? So, but what we focus on expands, right? If you want to, you want to see it in your mind so you can hold it in your hand. That's what my crypto coach says. So I love all of those things. Thoughts are things, right? Wallace Wattles said that. When we talk about losing weight, we're making ourselves wrong. When we talk about how fat we are, we're making ourselves wrong. When we talk about, oh, I'm eating this chocolate cake and it's going to go right to my hips, we're making ourselves wrong. When all you do is focus on, I am my ideal perfect body weight, at the same time that you have that beautiful love filling your heart, you're combining this magnificent brain power that you have with your heart energy. So the visualization of your brain with the heart love energy. And that's where the magic can really start to happen. So I wanted to share all of that with you, with your listeners, because I know from my own experience, but also from the ahas that I've had. I was at the Dolphin Cancer Challenge, which is here at a cancer center in Miami. And I was there for like the 4th year in a row. And I've never gone back since because I got the message loud and clear that day. I looked up and there was a banner right over me. And the banner said, 60,000 people fighting cancer. And all of a sudden it just hit me like a ton of bricks. What if those 60,000 people were affirming perfect health? Who wants to fight cancer? First of all, it has the energy of cancer right in the words. Secondly, it's got the energy of struggle right in the words, right? We are fighting the thing we don't want. What if we just focused on the thing that we do want? Mm-hmm. What happens when you water the negative tree? It grows. What happens when you water the positive tree? It grows. So the trick is starve the negative tree. Don't give it any energy. Because what happens to a plant that you don't give any energy to?
It dies.
It dies. Yes. Withers and dies.
We so needed to hear that right now. Yes. There's been a little negativity going on.
We all get that, right? Yeah. We all look, there's two things, Terry. There's what happens, and then there's how we react to what happens. And actually there's a third thing, which is getting ahead of it so that you can co-create so that it always just happens positively.
Right.
However, sometimes stuff happens from the outside that is so far out of your control that you weren't expecting it, to the point where you couldn't get ahead of it. Now you still can't get ahead of it. And now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. That's where you take those 3 deep breaths. You get present and you begin to say, like, when we're in fear, doubt, uncertainty, unhappiness, negativity, any anger, whatever, get curious. Curiosity is an amazing tool. I wonder why I feel like that. I wonder if I could feel different. Could I allow myself to feel different? Would it be okay with me if I wasn't upset and the thing still happened, right? We can have that whole interaction, right? And now your brain starts to shift out of the negativity because you've actually put it on, you're like, come over here, let's go over here and let's get onto this track instead of that really well-worn one that you're so used to going down.
That's awesome.
That's a great ending thought. I know you've got a hard stop that I know you'll never take my call again if we blow through that. So
the smoke, the vapors.
No, like I mean, we could go on talking for a couple more hours. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And so before we get away, a couple things we always like to ask, though, is what is a tool or a habit? And I know that we've talked about a few, but a tool or a habit that you use every day that really helps you in your personal life or your professional life? Something that you just can't do without.
I call it working out at the spiritual gym. And to me, it's the habit of getting up in the morning, going into prayer, meditation, and for me, it's yoga, stretching. If I don't stretch my body, it means my mind isn't going to stretch. So that's what I tend to do. That is what I tend to do. And I believe that whatever your practice is, that you can help yourself by working out at the spiritual gym. And I have another recommendation if we have a second for me to make it. No,
we've got plenty of time.
I brought a prop.
Okay.
Yay! This is my new book, Nutri-Glamorous: How to Feel Beautiful Inside and Out. And a lot of what I'm talking about today, that bumper sticker coaching stuff, and also the tools to work out at the spiritual gym, can be found in Nutri-Glamorous. So I just wanted to, really recommend that if people would like more help with that. And you can actually buy it on Nutri-Glamorous. Nutra is N-U-T-R-I, Nutri-Glamorous.com, or they can also buy it on Amazon. And I think by the time this airs, the Audible book will be out. The book will be out on Audible.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So tell us also, before we get away, tell us not about the podcast, where we can find it. And then also, I know that you do some coaching and other things. Tell us, who you like to work with, how you can help them, and then of course, how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I want to work with anybody who is looking for a giant transformation in their lives, ready for that quantum leap. Maybe they've worked with other coaches. Maybe they've been struggling with something for often their whole lives. I love working with people to help them. I tend to focus on women entrepreneurs over 40. However, I have different types of clients that I work with. If you do go to my website, though, you will find that it is highly focused on the goddess energy. Sorry, I dropped my phone. And you can go to, the easiest way to get to my website is it's HalleEavelyn.com. But the easiest way to get there is to go to HalleMindset.com, because mindset is so much easier to spell than Eavelyn. So it's Halle like Barry, Halle, and then HalleMindset.com. And when you're there, you can subscribe to get all of the latest information about my books, my upcoming tours. I'm doing my next tour to Egypt in October, which is a tour about balancing the sacred divine masculine and feminine. And then you can also get all the information about the podcast. The podcast is called Your Goddess Awakened. I would type in Your Goddess Awakened and my first name, Halle, because there's so many goddess things that they suggest to you, and the podcast is still so new, but it's on 17 platforms. We're on iTunes as of 2 weeks ago. And then it's also a show on YouTube, and you can subscribe on any platform. So just go to your favorite podcast platform and type in Your Goddess Awakened and Halle, and then hopefully that will come up for you. And then please subscribe on the site. Also, there is a free gift on the site, right on the front page, called 3 Keys to Slay Your Inner Critic. So pick that up for yourself as well while you're there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It's always a pleasure, and you'll have to come back. We got plenty to talk about. So that's going to do it for us for another episode of Feeding Fatty. Of course, I am Roy.
I'm Terry. Halle, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yep. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms as well: iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. video of this interview will go up on YouTube when it goes live as well. We're on all the major social media networks. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your health.
Bye.